What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this one, we have Trump's nightmare. India and China just united 1.6 trillion trade shock hits US. I don't know why it's a shock. Um, like that he was pushing India towards China, like India was supposed to be a counterweight to China, right? And I'm not sure how tight the relationship is. We're gonna hear in this video, but what did we think was gonna happen? Like we were just gonna be able to bully every country in the world into accepting our terms. We didn't think the possibility that these countries would start talking to each other and start forming deals with each other because we're so big. We thought everybody needed us. Stupid. All right, we're gonna listen to this video though. If you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Also, if you like to support the channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is hit the join button to receive your exclusive benefits. Let's get to it.
The unthinkable has just unfolded. India, the very country Washington once trusted to stand firm against China, has now extended its hand to Beijing. After a high-level meeting with China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, New Delhi is signaling what many thought could never happen: the possibility of aligning more closely with China than with the United States.
Donald Trump's sudden, inexplicable hostility toward India reverses policies pursued under 5 administrations, including his own previous one. If it holds, this reversal may be the biggest strategic mistake of the Trump presidency so far.
For Donald Trump, this is a direct challenge to the vision he has sold for years. The promise was that tariffs would isolate Beijing and lock allies in behind Washington. But instead, the global picture is shifting, and fast. And while Trump continues to boast about America winning, China has been quietly building something far greater. In the shadows of the trade conflict, Beijing has stitched together a vast economic web across the global south. Its exports to developing nations now exceed $1 trillion a year. From Latin America to Southeast Asia, China's goods, investments, and factories are becoming the backbone of growth. China is no longer just exporting products, it is exporting its technological future. If India is moving closer to China, and if much of the developing world is already leaning toward Beijing, what does that mean for America's place at the top?
We're gonna fall.
Because
every empire at some point falls, bro. And I think the way the world is shifting, the US isn't going to be on top in terms of money, in terms of military power, economy, innovation. I just don't feel like we'll stay at the top for too long, especially if we continuously head down this path. But even if not headed down this path at some point, right, where we weren't going to be at the top. And to think about that, it's like, I don't know what the world will look like. I've never seen a world where the US wasn't like the richest country, it wasn't the most powerful country. So
looks like a routine diplomatic visit may turn out to be a turning point in world politics. What just happened in New Delhi could reshape Asia's balance of power. China's foreign minister Wang Yi has landed in India, a moment that carries far more weight than a routine diplomatic stop. It is the first time in more than 3 years that a Chinese official of this rank has set foot in the country, and the timing makes it especially significant. For decades, India and China have...
Sorry about that beeping. My son's moving, but he's not waking up, so if it beeps, I completely apologize. I gotta keep an eye on him.
Been rivals. Their history is marked by conflict. A war in 1962, deadly clashes along the Himalayan border as recently as 2020, and years of frozen relations that followed. New Delhi banned Chinese apps, cut Chinese investment, and leaned closer to the United States, particularly as Prime Minister Narendra Modi built a personal rapport with Donald Trump. But this visit signals a different chapter. India and China are reopening channels that were firmly shut. Direct flights between the two countries are preparing to resume. Beijing has eased restrictions on vital fertilizer ingredients that India's agriculture depends on. Most strikingly, both sides are discussing border trade routes again. Wang Yi is
Dang.
presenting the idea that India and China should work as partners rather than adversaries. For Washington, this development is deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
The divide between India and
Yeah.
China had been one of America's greatest advantages in Asia. That
Mm-hmm.
wedge allowed Washington to court New Delhi as a counterweight to Beijing. If
Mm-hmm.
that gap narrows, U.S. influence in the region weakens. 1. Why is this shift happening now? The answer lies in Washington's own policies. Donald Trump built his foreign strategy on pressure, tariffs against friends and foes alike, restrictions on what countries could buy, and blunt demands for compliance. For a time, India tried to play along. Modi positioned India as an active member of the Quad alliance with the United States, Japan, and Australia, a grouping designed to contain China's rise. America welcomed this role, seeing India as its strongest card in Asia. But pressure soon turned into strain. When Washington demanded that India stop importing Russian oil, New Delhi refused. Energy security is non-negotiable for India. Cheap oil from Russia kept inflation in check for hundreds of millions of people. Abandoning it would have been economic self-sabotage. That
Yeah,
refusal
that's what
exposed
I'm
the limits of the
saying.
partnership.
Abandoning it would have been economic self-sabotage to deny buying or to reject buying Russia from oil at a cheaper price, reject that, go somewhere else to buy oil at a more expensive price, put our citizens, put more hardship on our citizens, put more of a strain on them because you don't want us buying oil from Russia. It's crazy. That's bonkers. If you don't want me buying oil, offer me the same or a better deal. Simple and plain.
Instead of treating India as a strategic equal, US officials began to lecture and threaten. Sanctions warnings circulated, and the tone shifted from partnership to command. For India, a nation intent on being seen as an independent power, this was unacceptable. China moved quickly to seize the moment. Wang Yi's visit comes with gestures designed to build trust. Reopened flight routes, loosened exports, revived trade talks. India's willingness to respond shows that New Delhi is no longer content to be seen as Washington's instrument in Asia. So
Mm,
Trump has succeeded in uniting the two Asian giants. Although this doesn't erase the mistrust between India and
crazy
China,
though.
the
I wouldn't
border
think
dispute
so.
remains unresolved, and competition still runs deep. But the message is clear. India intends to act on its own terms, balancing its relationships rather than blindly following American directives.
I
And
respect
Wang
it.
Yi's
I
arrival in New
respect
Delhi is the
it.
clearest indication yet that the conversation between Asia's two giants has started again. To see the full weight of Wang Yi's visit, we need to step back and connect it to the larger picture. What happens if India and China, the two largest nations in Asia, begin working more closely together? The answer is straightforward. American influence takes a serious hit.
For
Consider
sure.
BRICS. For
For
years,
sure.
one of its biggest weaknesses has been the mistrust between New Delhi and Beijing. That friction kept BRICS from evolving into a genuine alternative to the Western-led G7.
Hmm.
But if India and China set aside even part of their rivalry, the equation changes overnight. With Russia
Exactly.
providing energy, Brazil contributing food exports, and South Africa offering minerals, BRICS could transform into a powerful economic bloc capable of challenging US dominance on the global stage.
Yeah.
We're already seeing hints of this shift. Despite years of political hostility, trade between India and China still exceeds $135 billion annually. Now imagine what could happen if barriers were reduced further, if border trade routes across the Himalayas reopened, or if long-term infrastructure agreements took shape. Even small gestures would mark an important step towards stabilizing ties.
Oh,
That's why Wang Yi's presence in New Delhi carries such weight. This isn't only about resolving border disputes. It's a test to see whether India is ready to carve out more independence in its foreign policy, less tethered to Washington, more focused on its own strategic interests. Trump's approach has played a central role in driving India down this path. His reliance on tariffs
and the crazy thing is, it's just like it's not just India. Like we're tariffing everybody, like friends as well as allies, like people that it just doesn't make sense to tariff. And now, like, as consumers, we're hurting because we're eating the cost over here. Like, we're eating the cost of tariffs. And it's insane. Now, these other countries, they may be impacted for the short term, but as you see India, China, you're going to see these countries start coming together, forming deals with each other. Now we're the ones on the outs. Everybody's ally because we push all of them together. Why would you want to bring BRICS together? If China's your enemy, if Russia's your enemy, or I don't know about Russia because Putin keep coming to the U.S. But if China's your enemy, why would you want to push India towards them? India and China have like 1/3 of the population between two countries. Come on,
His
dog.
dismissive tone toward allies
This is
and his
craziness.
heavy-handed demands have had the opposite effect of what he intended.
Yeah.
Rather than isolating China, he has encouraged countries like India to reconsider their options. Rather than weakening BRICS, he has created conditions for it to strengthen. So where does this lead? If dialogue between India and China gains momentum, we could witness a surge in bilateral trade and a far more coordinated BRICS. India, rather than tying itself entirely to Washington, may continue balancing between the United States, Russia, and China while preserving its freedom of choice. And across the global south, governments observing this shift may feel emboldened to resist American pressure more openly. What appears on the surface as a routine diplomatic meeting could, in fact, mark a turning point in global politics. Two of Asia's most populous nations, after decades of conflict and mistrust, are reopening channels of dialogue, precisely at the moment when America's pressure tactics are reaching their peak. This moment reveals something critical. U.S. dominance, built on old formulas of pressure and loyalty, is no longer working. Countries are charting their own course. And when a nation as large and influential as India chooses to move in this direction, the global balance of power begins to shift in profound ways. Let's take a wider look, because what's unfolding between India and China is just one part of a much larger transformation. While Washington has been busy imposing tariffs on anyone who defies it,
Mm-hmm.
Beijing has been quietly redirecting the very foundation of its economy toward the global south. And the scale of this shift is staggering. According to the latest data, China now exports around $1.6 trillion worth of goods to developing nations every year. To put that into perspective, that's more than half again as much as
And I feel like, dang, but I mean, we've all known the threat of China, like their growth. But I just don't. I think India and China can be civil. I don't think India trusts China enough to help them build their economy or help them gain further power or gain growth. I don't think they trust China enough in the sense that you don't. I feel like all the times you've heard India kind of preach about these countries that China's helping, it's like the debt trap, the debt trap, the debt trap. So I don't think. I mean, I think India, of course, if you get them to the table, they're not gonna be. Um, you're not gonna trick them. You're not gonna fool them. You're not gonna. They're not gonna take any deals that they don't think is beneficial to them. So India is not, you're not just going to run circles around India at a business table, right? India is absolutely going to hold their own and make sure they walk out with a fair deal. But I just don't know if India trusts China to gain more power. And if they gain more power, to not try to gain control of certain land and that conflict starts again. But now China is more powerful. I don't know. Y'all talk to me about that. What do y'all think about that? You think they can come together, sign a deal, and actually work together? Or do you think the trust isn't there? And not just India not trusting China, but same vice versa. Do you think the trust is there for them to be able to do that? Y'all talk to
what
me.
it sells to the United States and Europe combined. For decades, conventional wisdom held that China's growth was tied to Western consumers. Analysts insisted that without American and European markets, Beijing's economy would falter. Today, the opposite is true. The global south has become China's most important customer. How did this reversal happen? Once again, the roots trace back to Washington's policies. Donald Trump believed tariffs would cripple China's export machine. He thought that by closing American markets, Beijing would be forced into submission. But instead of folding, China built new doors where old ones were shut. It expanded trade across Africa, invested heavily in Latin America, and deepened its economic ties with the Middle East. Projects like the Belt and Road Initiative created highways, railways, and digital links that plugged dozens of nations directly into China's supply chain. The result is a new global trade map, one where Beijing is the partner of choice not in Washington or Brussels, but in Nairobi, São Paulo, Riyadh, and Jakarta. And exports are only part of the story. Chinese investment abroad is now reshaping economies across the developing world. Last year, for the first time in history, Chinese companies invested more outside their borders than at home.
Oh,
Remarkably,
wow.
those outflows even surpassed U.S. foreign investment. That milestone signals something profound. Beijing
Dang.
is
So it's
no
like China is investing in the rest of the world. And then that we talk about the debt trap, and China's gonna get their return on the investment. They're making plans, they're making big plans right now. And oh wow.
longer focused primarily on its domestic economy. It is embedding itself worldwide.
Yeah.
Factories, ports, railways, power plants, digital networks. China is planting stakes in every region, from lithium mines in Latin America to solar farms in Africa. These are not just business ventures. They are strategic moves designed to create influence, build dependencies, and secure long-term partnerships that Washington's tariffs cannot reach. And here's the irony. The more Washington tried to isolate China, the faster this pivot accelerated.
Mhm.
Tariffs were supposed to contain Beijing, but instead, they pushed it to expand, diversify,
Right.
and entrench itself across the global south. Now let's focus on the industry that best captures this global transformation: electric vehicles.
Mm.
Over the past decade, China has built the world's largest EV industry, and today, it accounts for more than 60% of all electric cars sold worldwide. But what's striking is that Chinese companies are no longer satisfied with dominating their domestic market. They are moving outward, embedding themselves across the globe. This year, for the first time, Chinese EV makers invested more money in foreign operations than at home. Entire factories are rising in Europe. Distribution networks are spreading across Southeast Asia. And markets in Africa and Latin America are opening up to affordable Chinese-made cars that undercut Western rivals. This is Beijing's new going global strategy. It is not only about selling products, but about placing Chinese companies directly inside other economies, where they create jobs, supply infrastructure, and build long-term influence. Why does this matter so much? First, the EV sector is the future of global transportation.
Yeah.
Whoever leads in EVs will lead in auto manufacturing for decades to come. Right now, that leader is China. US and European car makers are weighed down by higher costs, while Chinese models are cheaper, faster to scale, and supported by massive state funding. Second, EV supply chains rely on critical resources like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, most of which lie in the global south. By expanding its companies abroad, China is not just selling vehicles. It is securing access to the raw materials that keep the entire industry running. Control the resources, control the technology, and you control the market.
Facts.
These overseas investments create a new layer of political influence. When a country like Brazil or Thailand hosts a Chinese EV factory, it doesn't just get an industrial boost. It begins to align with China as a strategic partner because its future jobs, growth, and technologies are tied to Beijing's success. That kind of loyalty cannot be undone by tariffs or speeches from Washington. Taken together, it's clear that Trump's strategy has backfired. Instead of isolating China, it has sped up its expansion into markets where America has little leverage. Instead of reinforcing US dominance, it has handed Beijing an opportunity to lead the global south into a new economic era. So when we see Wang Yi land in New Delhi, when trade routes reopen and flights resume, it isn't just about two neighbors thawing relations. It is the opening chapter of a broader realignment in global power. The age when America set the rules is fading. A
Yeah.
new age is beginning,
Yeah.
one where China and its partners build a system of their own. And that raises the ultimate question. Will the United States adapt to this new reality? Or will it be left behind as others write the rules of the future? Make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next could redefine the world economy in ways we've never seen before.
I feel like if we have the correct leadership, we could adapt into the future, but with the wrong leadership, we're going to try to hold on to power as it continuously slips away, as influence continuously slips away, trying to bully these countries without the influence or power because now they have someone else to turn to who is not, who they don't perceive as a bully. And that's just, it's awful. So we'll see what happens from here on out. I didn't know China was doing. I knew China was rising in the world, and they were like U.S. biggest threat for the number one spot in the world in terms of economy, military, such. But yeah, I didn't know they were making that move such as that. It's really like insane to hear what they've done. Y'all tell me how y'all feel in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next. I'll see you next.